Okay, so what I'm doing with you today, guys, is a revision on archaeology and the role of the archaeologist. Now, when we're talking about this, we're looking at two specific types of questions. We'll be looking at the question 3, which is the short questions, and also what you could have is the question 4, people in history. Now, I would hazard a guess, as I said before previously, guys, because this is the last year of the course, that everything that's on the old course is going to be examined in some shape or form. And this is a one that's common to both higher level and the ordinary level questions. Okay, so we're looking at the archaeologist and the role of the archaeologist. Now, so you're looking at two things, the difference between history and archaeology, and that's again a common question that comes up. So archaeology is the study of the past from its material remains, looking at things like artifacts, so any man-made object. And what you have as well then, history is finding out from the finding out about the past using sources, so you're telling us why and how it happened. So both an archaeologist and historian are both the same thing, but they're both historians in a way, but an archaeologist deals with the physical evidence, the artifacts or the bodies or the fossils that are left behind, and the historian deals with the written word. So are archaeologists historians? So in that case, very simply, yes. Now, when you're looking at this, is a question 3 the short question? You can explain it as it is. The difference between looking at written sources and looking at the physical evidence. If you're going into it and people in history though, in that question 4 style question, the key here is you need to elaborate more. So you're opening your paragraph explaining, if you're asked about an archaeologist, the difference between the role of an archaeologist and the role of a historian. So you can answer this in the third person. We just talk about an archaeologist. Or you can answer it in the first person, where you talk about yourself as an archaeologist or in your role. Guys, it doesn't matter how you phrase the question. You can be the archaeologist, you can just write about one in general, but you just have to elaborate on these points. So how do archaeologists find the sites? It's the idea of using old photographs, old maps, old legends to find them. Very simply as well, they're found by accident. And again, before there's any building or major roadworks, an archaeological dig has to take place. So that's something we can look at. Now, question here is which one is a site? If you said this, you're right. If you said this, you're right. So any building is man-made. Again, any place, whether it's underwater or above ground, is known as a site. Again, yes, these are both sites. So a site's place. So again, you can look back to this question. What is a site? Old legends, old stories, maps, photographs. You can mention like accidental discoveries here as well, like the terracotta warriors. When they went digging, they never expected to find anything like the terracotta warriors. Or you can just have archaeologists examining old sites already. Now, excavating the site. So, the trick is you treat the examiner, rather than someone who knows everything about history, as someone who knows nothing about history. That everything they're seeing is the first time it's ever been seen by them, so it's up to you to leave absolutely no grey areas and explain everything as detailed as you possibly can do. So that goes back to using the tools. So again, you're looking at, you need to mention your mechanical diggers, you need to mention grid squares, you need to mention trowels, brushes and scissors. But as well as mentioning what they all do, or what they are, you have to explain them. So you leave no room for ambiguity, you leave no room for confusion. Explain what everything is. Now, why do we need to keep records? So again, this can be used in both our short question, and what you'll see here, guys, is how no matter what we're studying in this topic, we can prepare for both questions. So first thing, if you're a historian, you want accuracy. But also again, it's about cataloguing, it's about keeping things as accurate as possible for future generations to look at the evidence and build upon that. So you're storing artifacts, bones, plants remains, you're numbering them, you're storing them. They all have to be catalogued. Again, you're taking photographs and drawings of site for record keeping. And again, laboratory testing. So testing, you're talking about the validity, how valid the validity of an item. And you're also testing the age of an item or an object. And that brings us on nicely here to our dating methods. So I've seen this again, short questions, and in our long question. So we're looking for 4 types. And for those, if you're preparing this for part of your people in history question, I'd be looking at these dating methods, gentlemen, by explaining them in full detail. So stratigraphy is the depth of an object, which you mostly know already, the depth of an object. So the deeper something is, the older it is. So as stuff keeps getting built upon and other stuff gets knocked down, other stuff gets buried and pushed to the bottom. So even our example here, you might have original Roman buildings in England, so the Roman roads. Then when the Romans are knocked down in Britain, the Saxons come in. Then after the Saxons, you have the Middle Ages. And then after the Middle Ages, you have the modern stuff building upon that. Our next one, coins and pottery. So this is a very straightforward one, but when we can work on it. So coins tell us things like date, where it was produced. So my best example, think of a modern euro coin. Okay, the back of it will have some symbol which tells us where it was produced. It will have the year that the coin was minted. So again, that's another piece of evidence for an archaeologist, and especially because coins are in such abundance. They're very commonly discovered. Another one, pottery. So pottery could be used as propaganda. So as well as the techniques of how the pottery was built or how it was made or the materials might be from a certain era, also could be used for propaganda to celebrate rulers, and also it was often done to tell the story of military achievements. So remember, we're pre-paper in this here, and we're pre the printing press, so a lot of the stuff would have been done by hand and would have been painted onto pottery. So to tell us more about culture and to tell us more about people. 3-ring dating. Now, another thing we can add here, and also the fact, I'm putting it down because it may be asked as this in a short question to explain it, is dendrochronology. And dendrochronology, quite simply, is the scientific name for 3-ring dating. And what you have here, the more rings there are, the older it is. So archaeologists tell the age of the tree by the amount of rings it has. And the last one then, radiocarbon dating, or carbon-14. Every single human being is born with carbon in them, and this, especially, particularly this element carbon-14. Now, when we die, our body starts releasing this carbon back into the atmosphere. So as we die and as our bodies break down and disintegrate, more and more carbon is released until eventually we become fossilized. Now, what archaeologists can do with that is that they have specific machinery that measures the level of carbon in a body. Okay, so the fact that it measures the level of carbon in a body, the less carbon there is, the older the body or the older the living, organism is. Okay, this can go for plants, animals, or people. So they can accurately measure this up to about 20,000 years old. So that's another method of it. So the other thing is the role of the archaeologist. When you're talking about this, guys, you need to mention all the tools that are used. You need to mention the importance of cataloguing. You need to mention the importance of how a site is chosen, the different methods of choosing sites, what each tool is used for, the different types of dating. It's a very straightforward question. It's a very basic question, but it's a question that's always asked in some shape or form. So when it comes up, it's probably the most commonly answered question on the entire exam. It's probably the one that gets corrected by more examiners than any other exam, so you can't leave any grey area. You have to talk about the nitty-gritty, dirty work here. Okay? And unfortunately, you can't really go into the Indiana Jones stuff as much as we'd like to talk about that. Okay? So thanks for listening, guys, and I'll have another video with more history revision soon. Okay? Bye-bye.